That's why I had you on.
Yeah, you're hilarious.
I had you on here so you would become a fan of this podcast.
I should expose you a little bit with all your funny
I would
jokes.
love to. This will be great. Come on, expose me. Do it.
Oh. You gotta give me an example.
I gotta preempt my own expose.
You do.
I'm already canceled, so you can't cancel me. I already don't have a job. Well, I do. I work for your brother, so.
You do work for my brother. That's how we met.
I don't talk about, I tried, you were asking me, you ask me questions. I try not to talk about myself that much. Mm-hmm. I try not to. Trett,
in daily life,
Trett's
he talks about himself all the time.
I don't know.
Trett, but imagine that, as much as I do, that's me trying not to.
Ooh, that's rough.
You're doing a great job.
Thanks, buddy.
See, I actually didn't even watch podcasts, really. Well, I wasn't really into them until I, met you.
I get it. You didn't watch my podcast.
No, I didn't. Still don't.
Hey, never make your significant other watch your podcast. That's
you
weird.
Can't force them.
That's weird, dude.
No, I find your podcast very interesting, and I think you've had a lot of really notable people on your podcast. So the fact that I'm on here doesn't make any sense to me, because I'm I really haven't accomplished anything in my life, but it's pretty cool. The different people that you've had on here, I think are really interesting. Okay.
Vic, you ready?
No.
In 3, 2, 1.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Bobcast. Today on the show, I have my friend Vikki Rocks.
Hi.
What's going on, Vic?
Good to be here. Thank you for having me.
Long overdue.
I know. We've been planning to do this for years, I think. A long time. Yeah.
Exactly. I don't know how long. I don't know how soon into our relationship that I brought up having you on the podcast.
No. Well, I just always knew that you did this. I actually didn't even watch podcasts, really. Well, I wasn't really into them until I met you.
I get it. You didn't watch my podcast.
No, I didn't. Still don't.
Hey, never make your significant other watch your podcast. That's
you
weird.
Can't force them.
That's weird, dude.
I like you as a I don't have to like your podcast. I'm just kidding.
No, you should. I mean, listen, the reality is, it's separate. I do different things. It's just
No. I find your podcast very interesting, and I think you've had a lot of, really notable people on your podcast. So the fact that I'm on here doesn't make any sense to me, because I'm I really haven't accomplished anything in my life, but it's pretty cool. The different people that you've had on here, I think are really interesting. People, even you, and what you've done and what you've accomplished is really cool. So
before we get into it, I think that's a misconception of podcasting. I think that podcasting is not about any credentials. It's about, I know people who have accomplished a lot of things and they're super boring. And I know people who are multi-millionaires and they're very boring. So it's it's not about it's not the most rich people that are the most successful in this medium. It's just not.
So what is it about then that makes a successful podcast? What makes a successful podcast?
Well, if you have a guest-based podcast, then, definitely the interviewer first, right? Because, most of the time your guest is not going to save you, I mean, they can, right? I've saved a podcast with a terrible... I mean, not really. I've been on a podcast with an interview...
It?
Well, think about it. Okay, so I've been on 40 podcasts, right? Uh-huh. I've been on some podcasts where the interviewer's not that good. Mm-hmm. And I then take over, and I'll go off on some tangent or something that I know... I basically will answer the question that they didn't even ask me, the question that they should have asked, right? So, in very, it's a small percentage chance that the guest is going to save you. So first, it's the host, right? Mm-hmm. So you got to have a great host. You got to have somebody who's there to listen, right?
Yeah.
And add just enough to contribute to the conversation, but not take over the conversation, right? It can't be an ego-driven thing. So that's step one. And then the guest, right? You want somebody who can talk about things, but it depends on the podcast, right? This one's different than other interview shows. I mean, they're all different. So the success and failure, you can have an episode. I think with something like a podcast, it's really about attention, and keeping the conversation going to keep people's attention. Because who sits down to listen to something for 2 hours?
You do all the time. See, I'm more of a visual person. Like, I like movies. Like, I like to, like, watch something where like, not only is there audio, but there's something to watch. Like, whereas, like, right now, like, somebody watching this, they're just watching two people having a conversation. Versus, like, if you're watching a movie, there's, like, other things going on. Like, in the background, there might be, like, a truck going by. Or, you know, there's more to look at and more to keep your attention versus, like, two people having a conversation. So then there's more emphasis on the conversation, right? Because you want to be interesting and you want to say, you know, different things that are going to keep people's attention because you don't have anything else that's going to grab their attention.
Well, I think that's why podcasts like Your Mom's House, Tom Segura's podcast.
Yeah.
Like podcasts like that, they add those extra elements that keep it interesting.
I haven't really seen it. So what elements do they add that keeps it
I'm going to divert to Trett for this one.
Okay.
Yeah, so they have like a lot of like different segments in the podcast. So like sometimes they'll do like they always have like an opening clip. So they have an opening clip of like somebody like either usually getting hurt or like saying something that's offensive, like you know.
They have a guy testing out masturbation toys. That's like 40 years old.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, nice.
Whatever it is, yeah.
Something like that. And then throughout the show, they'll have like little clips that they throw in like throughout. And it also is they have guests all the time. Like, so a lot of it is like the shock value of showing the clips to the guests and their reaction.
Yep.
And then they have like another segment that they do, which is all just reacting to TikToks.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
So it's a little bit of variety, but then they also just have like the regular podcasts where they just talk about like comedy and their lives and their kids and all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, and I feel like they also have like all the elements in that case. Like they'll do the guests, they'll do the viral videos. They'll do it's like I think say if you were gonna compare it to, you know, Joe Rogan or something like that. Like his is much more. You're gonna get a video in there, but they're not reacting to it. They're kind of just talking about it.
Yeah, it's also
not
like in the background. Like,
it's not embedded in the format of the show.
Correct. Yeah.
Whereas YMH, I feel like they're really on it about like kind of keeping that attention moving.
Totally.
Yeah. So in that case, it's a success. Their podcast, like if they did it just like Joe does it, it wouldn't be a success. You see what I'm saying?
I've listened to a lot of like podcasts, especially as a teacher. I've kind of like tuned into trying to listen to, you know, teaching podcasts or whatever. Like even when I was interviewing for a new job, I wanted to look up like, okay, how to interview at a, you know, for a teaching position. And I was just bored to death. Like I was on a flight and I was listening to it and I was just like falling asleep. Because a lot of times, especially if they're you know, they're not adding anything to it, if they're just talking and telling you, giving you like point A, point B, point C, just, you know, it gets really boring.
But is that what it was? Like it wasn't like an interview.
It was informational. Like I learned, you know, things from that podcast, but it was too boring to listen to. So I'd rather just go on Google and look up like, oh, what are possible interview questions? How can I prepare for, you know, a teaching interview, rather than listening to this girl with a very monotone voice telling me, oh, this is what you should do, blah, blah, blah,
What's
blah, blah.
interesting to me is that since I've listened to so many now, because it's part of my job essentially, there are a lot of people doing podcasts that, not that they shouldn't be doing podcasts, it's just they're not ideal for this medium. Like the way that they express themselves is not entertaining.
No.
In any sense.
At all, yeah.
And I'm not saying that I am or you are or we are, but there's obviously a way that somebody can speak naturally that's makes you want to fall asleep.
Yeah.
And if you get a podcast with somebody like that, they might have the best information in the world, right? But what you're saying is that the delivery is really important.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I think it's important to a lot of people, you know, the delivery of a podcast, or even like just adding different things to it. Like I listened to another teaching podcast. I forget what it was called, but it was just, they added jokes into it, you know, so you can laugh a little bit. Haha. So I don't know. So that in itself made it better.
We had jokes all the time, Trett.
Lots of jokes.
We're so fucking funny.
Oh, you're hilarious.
We do that too. We're great. That's why I had you on.
Yeah, you're hilarious.
I had you on here so you'd become a fan of this podcast.
I should expose you a little bit with all your funny
I would
jokes.
love to. This will be great. Come on, expose me. Do it.
You gotta give me some. Give me an example.
I gotta preempt my own expose.
You do.
I have to give
You do.
I'm already canceled, so you can't cancel me. I already don't have a job. Well, I do. I work for your brother, so.
You do work for my brother. That's how we met.
I don't talk about, like, I try, like, you were asking me, you ask me questions. Like, I try not to talk about myself that much. I try not to. Trett, I probably.
In daily life,
Trett's like.
he talks about himself all the time.
I don't know.
Trett, but imagine that, as much as I do, that's me trying not to.
Ooh, that's rough.
You're doing a great job.
Thanks, buddy.
See, it's funny because, like, we're the opposite, I feel like, in that sense, at least. Like, where, I don't know, you talk about yourself a lot.
Calm down,
that's not a bad thing. That's not a bad thing, you know? That's a good thing. Because, like, you know, like, it's great to learn so much about a person. Like, I feel like I know you pretty well. So that's a good thing. Whereas, like, with me, it's like, you know, when you're a more reserved person, it's not, you know, so it's, you know, it's a good and bad thing.
It was harder. It was definitely harder for me to get to know you than it is for you to get to know me. Maybe.
Yeah.
You think?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, because definitely, yeah, we talked about this yesterday, but when we first started dating, it's like you wanted to make sure that there was no reason that I would bring up that there was, like, you wanted to make sure, you wanted to cover your bases, is what I'm saying, right?
Well, especially, like, I feel like girls, like, especially nowadays, you gotta cover your bases. There's a lot of, you know.
What do you mean? Like, you can't be yourself, though, or?
No, just, like, there's, like, a facade that guys put up, especially, like, in the beginning of, like, you know, getting to know them or dating them or whatever, where, like, as females, I feel like, you know, well, okay, you could say there's the same thing with them, because girls are like, Trett, girls are like, haha, you're so funny, and then, and, because I feel like that's what I did in the beginning. I just laughed at everything that you said. I was like, you're so funny,
and now she
hilarious.
never fucking laughs.
And now
at
I'm just like,
say.
you're full of shit.
It sucks now. Can we go back to how it was? That was fucking better, man. That was better when you were trying to just impress me all the time and not fuck up our relationship.
Trett, come on, put in your 2 cents here.
Don't put him on the spot.
Yeah, wait a minute.
We need a mediator. This is like couples counseling. Right, we need a mediator.
Couples therapy, round 1.
Yeah.
Round 1. Fight.
Do you want me to add here?
Yeah, go ahead.
No,
yeah.
I mean, I just
let the silence do its
thing.
That's
fine. So I feel like, hold on, let me switch cameras here real quick. Okay, so I feel like, no, it definitely happens on both sides. Like, you're definitely whenever you meet somebody new, even if it's like not even like a dating kind of thing, like you're just meeting somebody new, I feel like you always, like, you try, or at least try to, unless, I mean, there's definitely like those rare people out there that are like, I'm just myself all the time.
That's a little
like,
aggressive.
But even with
so
friendships, right? You meet a person even for the sake of just being friends with them.
Yeah.
You know, it's
that's
like
that's a strategy of, not a strategy, but like, yeah, you'd never though, like, if you're too much and you don't even know you're too much, you don't want that. Yeah. Like, nobody wants that. So
yeah, but you definitely put up, like, everybody puts up a front.
Yeah.
You know, they put up this.
It's protection.
It definitely is, because you want people to like you. I mean, that's like human nature. You want people to be, you know, like, oh, that person was cool, or I like hanging out with them, like. So, you know, the person that just, like, either stands in the corner and doesn't say anything, you're like, what's up with that guy? He seems a little bit weird, you know?
Yeah.
So it's always, you know, you want people to like you. So I think you try to put, like, oh, hey, I'm this person, and this is what at least this is what I want to be, whether you are that person or not.
And then later on, you're going to find out.
Then you'll find out.
Yeah, and, well, I think our main difference, one of the differences is you probably care more about what other people think.
Oh, yeah, definitely, 100%. See, you're on this platform, though, where you're, like, in front of a camera, and you meet so many different people. Whereas, like, me, like, I go to work, I'm a teacher, I teach little kids, and I'm just around little kids all day. So it's a lot easier to not care about what little kids think about you versus, like, adults, you know, especially because little kids, what's great about them is they're just genuinely just they're innocent, and they're not judgmental. They haven't learned to be judgmental yet. And whereas adults, we're just it's like factored in our brains to just be judgmental pieces of shit. Like, you know, like even as kind of a person as you may be or come across as being, you judge people every day. You know, you go to Wawa, somebody doesn't open the door for you. You're like, that piece of shit, he didn't open the door for me. Like, you know, and you're thinking about that. And it's like, maybe they're just having a bad day and they just happen to walk in or they didn't see you coming or whatever. Like, we're just like, I feel like we're almost wired to judge other people over silly things, you know?
Or to assume that they made a mistake, or to assume that they're out to get us, or assume that they have some prerogative.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy to think that.
Yeah.
Was that funny, dude? Was that
it is funny, because, like, so for me, like, I'm always the type that's, like, I always give people the benefit of the doubt, like, once, maybe twice, if I don't know them. Like, if I get, like, cut off or something, like, I'm like, oh, maybe they just didn't see me, or, you know, whatever, like, shit happens, okay. But if you do it a second time, I'm like, all right, fuck
game on,
you, it's going on, like, that's it. So I always give people the benefit of the doubt the first time, but I feel like a lot of people
I'm with you.
don't give them anybody any chance ever. Like, they're just like, well, that person didn't hold the door for me, like, they're a fucking asshole. How do you go through life being such an asshole like that? And it's like, maybe the person just, like, was, like, thinking about, you know, something else, and they were just like, oh, I gotta get milk, you know, or whatever. And it's like,
exactly.
So,
or, like, even if you have a friend and let's say you stop being friends with that person, and then you meet a friend through them, and they're, you know, you're in that middle spot where it's like they're still friends with that person, but you're not friends with them anymore. So you're almost like automatically judged to a certain extent because, well, by that person, because it's like, you know, why aren't you friends with that person or whatever. So it's like, if basically what I'm saying is, if you don't associate yourself with somebody that somebody else associates with, it's like they automatically have something to think about you or say about you just because you're not associated with that person, or if you are associated with them. Yeah,
they judge you by association, not by you, but by your associations.
Like, when I was in elementary school, I was really good friends with this girl, and she was bullied because she like had a certain religion and she lived a certain lifestyle, and I was friends with her. And I remember, like, this group of girls, they would, like, pick on me or bully me, like, why are you talking to her? Like, why are you friends with her? You're supposed to be friends with us. And it's like, it's just, like, crazy how that's a thing, because it's like, she didn't do anything to you. Like, you're solely judging her based on the fact that she, you know, practices a certain religion and dresses a certain way. So it's crazy, like, you know, even... And I noticed that, like, sure, I teach little kids, and I feel like it just, like, gets worse the older that you get. So, but it does start even at a young age where, like, these kids are judging, you know, other kids just based on, like, you know, what religion they practice or how they look or whatever. So, I don't know, it's sad, you know. But
do you think about how the kids think about you?
Sometimes.
Because you know that their perception of you is definitely way different.
Well, like, for instance, like, they'll tell me, they'll say, like, if I walk in, let's say some days I'll go into work and I won't do my hair, and they'll be like, what's wrong with your hair today? Like, what's going on? Like, and it's like, I want to be like, Miss R's a little hungover today, but, you know, you can't say that. But it's just like they'll pick out certain things if it's not the same. So if I came in looking a certain way, they're going to expect me to continue to look that way, or if I come in acting a certain way, they're going to expect me to act that way. So they notice a lot of things. Yeah. They're very observant.
Is that a kid thing? I feel like...
I think that kids predominantly observe... They're more observant than adults, I think. Just from what I've found. Like, I feel like they notice everything. Like, I opened up a seltzer water at work the other day, and I spilled it all over myself. And they were cracking up. They thought it was the most hilarious thing in the world. I was like, haha, so funny. One little girl was like, haha, you peed yourself, because, like, I just spilled the seltzer water all over my pants. So it's just like, you know, certain, I mean, that's a stupid example, but they notice everything. Like that would never, you know, go unnoticed. Or if I get pen on my face or something, they're like, haha, what's on your face, you know? So.
It kind of blows my mind, like, what you have to go through as a teacher, but also simultaneously just how kids are in general. I'm so far removed from it that it's not like I forgot. I just don't really
You don't
know.
really have kids on your podcast.
I've had one. She was probably one of the most well-spoken 11-year-old that you've...
She was
insanely well-spoken, man. Oh my God. It was I was talking to a 23-year-old.
I've worked with, like, you know, that age group, like 4th grade, and she is very intelligent for her age. At least, like, the kids that I've worked with that are on the same, you know, age group as she is.
We'll link the episode below in the description or show notes. It's Chaz and Natalia Hazlitt. What do you think? Do you have any idea like why some kids are like so much more advanced? Like, have you had examples of kids that are much more advanced, but then like their parents seem normal or their upbringing seems the same as everybody else? Like, are there certain factors that you think predispose these kids to be much more advanced than the people around them, or do you think they're just kind of naturally like that?
Well, let me put it this way, and I'm not trying to sound like cynical, and I know I'm gonna I'm not gonna sound great saying this, but so when you're as a teacher, you're not always knowledgeable of your kids' backgrounds, or you know, I might not have that much communication with their parents or their family, but that definitely does play a huge role, especially at a young age. Like I've been in kindergarten for 2 years, so if kids are, you know, not taken care of at home, they don't get a lot of sleep. Or, I mean, it obviously really has to do with their home life, how they are in school. Because a kid could be the smartest kid in the world, but if they're sleeping the whole time, it doesn't, you know, it doesn't really do them much good. So, but there's some kids that, like, they grew up and they have, like, let's say, like, fetal alcohol syndrome, or they have, you know, their parents did drugs or their mom did drugs when, you know, she was pregnant with them. Mm-hmm. And it's a shame because that does put them back. And I've worked with a lot of kids like that. And I'm not saying that necessarily has to do with their academic abilities, but a lot of times it does. And I would just say that home life really does play a huge role. And I'll have parents that, you know, talk to me and communicate with me, and they're like, oh, can you send my kid like extra work on X, Y, and Z? And then I'll have other parents that will message me and say, stop messaging me, like, leave me alone. So it really has a lot to do with parent communication and their involvement in their kids' education.
Yeah, that has to be big, because you would want the parents to, if the parents prioritize the education, then it's not that the kids are automatically going to prioritize it, but they're going to be much more willing to prioritize it. Mm-hmm. They're gonna because they're gonna want they've gotten that stimulus, or they've basically been indoctrinated to think that education's important. Mm-hmm. Whereas you have a parent where education's not important. I don't know if there's parents who are like, education's not important. I think there's parents who are like, school's not important, maybe.
Or they don't prioritize it in the sense of, like, for example, like, they don't have their kids going to bed at a certain time so they can get up early for school the next day. Like, I remember just the other day, this little girl was like, you know, 3rd grade, she was like, oh, I didn't go to sleep last night. I was up watching TV. And I was like, you know, your mom didn't, you know, have you go to bed, ask you to go to bed? She was like, no. So it's certain things like that where I think there has to be a level of discipline for kids. Like, even so, I had one kid who was in kindergarten, and I had him sit out because I would have like Fun Friday every Friday, and I had him sit out one time for Fun Friday, and I messaged his mom and I told him why. And I said he did not pay attention all week. He didn't do any of his homework. He was not, you know, participating in class. And she was like, how could you do that? He's only 5-6 years old. Like, you should have him playing with the other kids. And I'm like, no, that's not the case. And then she counteracted that with, well, you can't just have him sit in the corner. He needs to be doing work. He's in school, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh, now you care about school. Now school matters. But it's just funny because I'll give them, but I do, like, I don't just put a kid in the corner. Like, I'll give them something to work on. Like, I'm not just going to have them sit in the corner and stare at the wall. But But it's just funny to see like what certain parents care about and what they prioritize over with their kids. So,
or if they switch up on you and start caring, quote unquote.
But I think that discipline has a lot to do with it. Like if kids aren't disciplined to do their homework, or if kids aren't disciplined to treat adults or other kids with respect, then they're going to go to school and they're not going to do that. So I just feel like that plays a big role.
Yeah, man, I didn't want to get the belt, you know? I mean, shit. That I wasn't perfect. I mean, I was a good student. I was a good student, so I could fuck around.
I feel like we grew up differently than a lot of kids nowadays, you know? I feel like a lot of kids nowadays, it's just like, oh, you know, like behavior is just like, it doesn't, you know, do whatever you want. Like there's no repercussion to any behavior where, ooh, if I got in trouble, I don't even want to say what happened at home for me. But it was, I mean, I was a good kid overall, but I'm just saying a lot of kids, unfortunately, like, obviously you don't want too much, but you don't want nothing at all as far as discipline goes.
I think it depends on who raised the parents.
Yeah, that's very true.
Trett, can you look up this quote? It's like, hard men make soft times, soft men make hard times. If you just type that in, it'll come up. But I think it's generational.
Oh yeah, definitely. To some extent. Yeah, no, it is. But like, for instance, like nowadays, like I was told at the school that I was at previously that I wasn't allowed to take away a child's recess. Like I was not allowed. Like this was a rule. I don't know if it was like a state rule or whatever, but I was not allowed to take away a child's recess. And I remember even at 5 years old, like if I was talking too much in class, like my teacher would say, no recess for you, like you're done. So it's crazy. Like times have definitely changed.
There's no punishment in school other than like there's no punishment that I saw anybody receive or I received that I don't think was warranted.
Yeah.
Like one time my teacher threw my friend to the front of the bus because he was like he physically, the kid was in 8th grade.
Wow.
And the teacher threw him to the front of the bus. That was the craziest thing that I ever saw. Statute of limitations might be up. I won't name names. He deserved it. The kid deserved it 100%.
Yeah,
he was the troublemaker.
Yeah.
The number one troublemaker, but broken home. Okay? So.
But who pays for that? Is it the parents? Is it the teachers? Is it the school? Who pays for that child being born into a broken home? You know what I mean?
And it's not really his fault either.
No, it's not his fault, but guess what? It's not the parents' fault either. And then, is it the school's fault? Like, nobody's taking accountability or responsibility for that broken child. And that's the problem, because it keeps building and building and building. The fact that there's no accountability for these kids. Like,
But that's what I'm saying. Then those people are raising kids. So
yeah,
they're not prioritizing
kids are raising kids. That's exactly what's happening. Yep.
Oh, I can't see it. Oh, sorry, Trett. We got an ad block on there. But I love this quote.
Oh, no, ad block. All right.
Ad block.
Oh, what happened here? Okay, there we go.
Hard times create strong men. Strong men create good times. Good times create weak men. And weak men create hard times.
Deep.
That's what I'm saying. It's generational. Right?
Yeah.
Like, it depends who came before you, right? So.
Like, you think, like, back in the day, you know, like, wars were going on. So, like, there were things that prioritized. Like, now, like, I feel like we have a lot of weenie babies, you know? Like, a lot of, like, you know, parents and children that don't take accountability or responsibility for their actions.
Well, if you're a parent that doesn't take responsibility for yourself, then you're no way your kids, like, you have to teach that.
But that's what it is. Like, for example, I keep thinking of this one specific parent who, for example, she couldn't pick her son up from the bus. Nobody picked him up. And this was like a regular occurrence. And so this kid was about to get kicked off the bus, but he didn't get kicked off the bus. And what happened is this parent was just like, I don't have transportation. It's like, but you have a child. Like, I don't know. It's just, it's passing the responsibility of you deciding, or what, for whatever reason you had this child. So whose responsibility is it? Is it your responsibility? Is it the school's responsibility? Is it the state's is it the country's responsibility that you decided to have this child? I don't know. Like, it's just, it's just a lot of parents that I found personally that are delegating the responsibility that they had a child for whatever reason, whether it was wanted or unwanted. They had this child. So it's either you take responsibility for this child or you don't. And it's just like, I don't know. It's just, who are you going to give the responsibility to is what I'm saying. And unfortunately, a lot of times it's then like, you know, then the kid goes back to the school. Then the school has to stay late to make sure that the kid, you know, has somebody look until somebody can actually come, or, you know, DIFUS is called or whatever. Like, it's just, you know, it's, I just feel like if you have a child, I know it's not always easy, but somebody needs to take responsibility.
It's well, it kind of is a collaboration between the parents and the school, or the parents and the teachers, but obviously it's not. Like, right? Like, that's not how it's presented. But ultimately, that's the reality of the situation is there's parents, and then there's people who act as parents who watch your kids all day. Mm-hmm. Those people have the same job. One does it at home, one doesn't during the day, and then the people who do it during the day also have to teach your kids certain things. And sure, the parents have a way different job than a teacher does. And arguably they have a more important job, at least in the beginning of the child's life, right? But it kind of is a collaboration, but it's not, it's like you were going to work on something with somebody, but you never talk to them about how you're going to do it. That's kind of it, you know? I
think, like, especially as an early elementary teacher, like, for example, I taught kindergarten for 2 years. And it's not just them, you know, it's not just academics, teaching them academics. It's social and emotional learning. So I'm teaching your kid how to sit in a chair. I'm teaching your kid how to talk to another kid, because who knows if they've even really had communication with other children. So I'm teaching your kid how to act in a community, because, like, they're not at home anymore. They're not playing with family friends. You know, they're in a school setting. Mm-hmm. So it's like, basically, it's getting a job for the first time. You're learning how to act. You're learning how to be. So when a kid enters the classroom for the first time, and they're like, what do I do? How do I act? What do I sit? How do I treat, you know, other people? And that has a lot to do with the parents, you know, what they've kind of, what values they've instilled in their child for them to act like, is this child going to treat me with respect as a teacher or not? And I see that right off the bat. Or is this something that I'm going to have to teach them? How do you talk to an adult? Or how do you talk to another child? Like, what's the right way? How do you hold scissors? How do you hold a pencil? Like, it's so much more specific than you might think. So I think that especially, like, a lot of early elementary teachers don't get a lot of credit, because you just think, oh, you're a certified babysitter. No, I'm not. I might spend more time with your child than you do, especially on, like, really important life skills that they're gonna hold on to for the rest of their lives that you're not teaching them as a parent. So a lot of times, like, unfortunately, that's kind of the case. And I mean, I don't mind doing that. Like, I love doing that, but it helps more when the parents are helping out, you know.
Do you think there's anything they can do for these parents to try to make them maybe realize that there's more that they can do to help you? Like, it's kind of like like, as a teacher, like, why I'm taking it back to the collaboration thing is, like, if the parents knew your side and you knew their side, things would be different. I think if there was more
that would be awesome. And I really appreciate, like, I'll have certain parents that'll tell me, oh, my kid's, like, really not having a good day today, you know, things were happening at home, and they don't even need to tell me, like, specifically what was going on at home, but just them giving me that heads up, that'll get me prepared for the day, you know, instead of, like, thinking, oh, this kid just doesn't want to do work. No, they had a hard time yesterday or whatever. So they, like, I can't blame them. And I'm not saying that I would blame, like, the child, but I'm just saying sometimes kids act out on their own accord, and they just act out for the sake of acting out. Whereas other times, like, certain things happened at home or or outside of the classroom that I don't know about. So it's always, you know, important to be knowledgeable about. But as far as like, I don't know, to be honest with you, it's really hard because I feel like teachers like before used to get a lot more credit for what they were doing. like oh, like they're, you know, teaching your child, they're, you know, spending time with your child, they're thinking in the best interest of your child. Nowadays I feel like I have friends who have kids and they're just like, oh, this teacher did this. It's like almost like we want to think badly about the teacher, like, oh, they're not on our side. We want to like point out you know, it's almost like we want to think badly of them, but it's like, I don't get paid that much. Teachers in general, really, in my opinion, are fairly underpaid. And if I didn't care about your child, I'm in the wrong career, because I think that a lot of teachers that come into this career, not all, but most, you know, they're thinking in the best interest of, you know, their students. Like that should be their number one priority. And I think that parents don't necessarily think about that all the time.
Is there any bad advice that people have given you about teaching?
Bad advice? Bad advice?
What's the worst advice somebody's given you about teaching?
I think the worst advice, I had a teacher in high school, and I was figuring out what I wanted to do after high school, what I wanted to go to college for. And I was like, oh, let me go for teaching. And my high school English teacher, she said, don't do it. It's not worth it. It's not worth the pay. It's not worth the aggravation. It's not worth the frustration. It's not worth dealing with administration and the parents and the state and all that. So I actually, because of her, believe it or not, I actually switched to hospitality, and I went to college for hospitality originally. And then I decided, I was like, you know what, let me go for teaching, because that's what I have always wanted to do. But I think the worst advice I've ever been given is don't do it in general.
Because do you think that person wasn't in the right profession?
I think for her specifically, she wasn't. I don't think she was in it for the right reasons. And that's unfortunate because, I mean, not just teaching, like teaching, I feel like a lot of times gets a bad rep because people are not in it for the right reasons, but that could be any career. You know, you could, like, for instance, for example, you could not, you know, be doing this for the right reasons, you know, but I think you're doing it for the right reasons. So I'm just saying, like, in any career, it doesn't matter what it is. You could be doing it for the wrong reasons. And I think teachers get a bad rep for, you know, oh, they're not in it for the right reasons.
I think it's interesting that you could be really good at something and still not
doing it
for the right reasons.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Like, you could not be doing the thing that ultimately you should be doing, even though you might be really good at something else. Mm-hmm. And that, I think, happens with kids a lot, you know? I think I know parents, maybe you know parents, that push their kids to do sports. Mm-hmm. And didn't only push their kids to do sports, but force them to be really good at sports too. Like, try to do everything they could to make sure their kid. Mm-hmm. And sure, you have one side of the spectrum of a parent not caring at all about their child's education, or you. And then you have a parent who's so obsessed with their kid being successful at something, or most likely so they could live vicariously through the success of their kid. And both those people, I will say, care in certain ways and not others. Like, there's still a level of care, right? But I think that's so interesting to me. None of the kids that I know that their parents pushed them to do a certain thing, whether it was a sport or academics or whatever it was, none of them ended up being successable at that thing. They were at a certain time, but they didn't turn out once they had control of their lives. They didn't end up doing it.
Yeah. I've met parents that either don't care about their kid. Well, I'm saying they don't care what their kids do or what their kids get into. And then I've had parents who want their kids to be mini versions of them. And then I've had parents who want them to be better than them. I've rarely had parents, at least, that it seems like they want their kid to be worse than them. It's either like they just don't care, or they don't show that they care, or they want their kid to be, mini versions of them. They're like, I want you to do what I did. I want you to go to the same school that I did. I want you to do the same sport that I did. Or I want you to be better than how I was. Or I want your situation to be better than, and I feel like that's the case for most parents. They always want better for their kid than what they had.
It's okay to want it. Mm-hmm. I think that's okay. But
just not to force or push, yeah.
How do you feel about parents putting their kids into sports without the kid? Because I also think that, and we've said this before on this podcast, but somebody can kind of nudge you to do something that you think you don't want to do, and then you can fall in love with it.
Yeah.
Or you could start something that you think you'll love, and then you could hate it. Mm-hmm. So I do think there's something to the people who are like, okay, you don't have to play the sport that I played, but you have to play at least 2 sports a year or 1 sport a year or whatever. What do you think about that?
I think that, I don't know. Yeah, that's hard because you do.
We're both not parents as well.
I know. Yeah, no, I'm not. But, okay, if I were a parent, I'm just trying to think if as if I had a child, I wouldn't force them to do anything. At least for me personally, growing up, my friends were a bigger influence to get me to do things than my parents ever were. So my parents got me to drink for the first time. I mean, my friends got me to drink for the first time, or my friends got me to join Interact Club in high school. My friends got me to join track in high school.
What club?
Interact.
What's that?
It's almost like...
Interact, yeah.
Okay. It's like where you... It's
some South Jersey shit.
Some South Jersey shit. I'm definitely not going to explain it right.
Interact Club. You talk, then I'll talk.
No, it's just basically a community-based club, and I'm definitely not going to explain this right. But
maybe try
because I was only in it. I was only in it for a short period of time, but it was you'd do a breast cancer walk or something. It was you'd go out for the community. You'd do things for the community. Or let's say we'd bake cookies for the nursing home. It was kind of things like that.
Oh, so it was like Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts type shit.
Kind of, yeah.
Okay, I see.
Yeah. But I was in it for a very short period of time. I could be totally wrong.
But anyway, your friends were...
Yeah, because my friends were in it, so I had to do it. But my parents didn't really place a large influence on what I did, which could be a good and bad thing. But did you ever get into anything that you when you were a kid that either your friends kind of pushed you to do that you didn't really end up liking, or you didn't, it wasn't your thing?
My dad, I think, wanted me to try wrestling. I'm not sure if that's the reason why I did it. Mm-hmm. But I did it, and I won a match, and I lost the match, and I just hated it, and I quit. And he said, I quit with his permission. He said, okay, you can quit one sport in your life. Mm-hmm. And, this is if you're going to quit, just know this is the only time you're going to quit, or whatever.
How about your friends, though? Did your friends ever influence you to do something that you weren't, you didn't end up being, fond of?
I guess partially track, you could say, running. I wasn't obsessed with running.
We're both on the same spot with that.
Yeah,
your sister's really good at it, and I feel like it has to do athlete, it has to do with what you're into.
Yeah, but she's very good too. She's also, not that this is not putting her down at all. She is very she's way better than I was at the thing as well. So that also I feel does I never felt, except for basketball in 7th and 8th grade, because that's when I got really good for me, not really good for everybody else.
With basketball, that was our rabbit. The rabbit. They called me the rabbit because I jumped a lot. For defense, I would always get on people and jump on them, and then the ref was you can't
most people suck at defense, so that's good that you were good at defense.
I hated defense because then I don't know. I just wanted to shoot the basket. Oh, so you just jumped?
So I did. I just jumped. That's my defense.
Because you can't touch them, right? You can't
Well, you could kind of.
I don't know. I didn't like that. I was very iffy about the rules, what you can and can't do. So I just thought jumping would distract them because I was just jumping in front of them, and they were what are you doing?
Yeah, it's a mental game. It was a mental game.
Yeah, Yeah.
But I hit my peak 7th and 8th grade during basketball.
So did I. Yeah, middle school was the spot, and then I was
hit
done.
the peak, bud.
Yeah.
And then after
short,
that, it was all downhill. Yeah. I tried out in high school, but I actually tried out half-assed because I tried out like halfway through the tryouts because I was like, I had to accept that I was giving up the sport. And halfway through the tryouts, I was like, oh, wait, I don't want to give up this sport. But then I realized I never practiced. So I was like, how am I going to make the team if I never practiced?
Yeah.
So I just tried to make the team on sheer willpower. It didn't work. He was like, you're not in this, dude.
So when I was little, I played piano. And I was like, let me try to learn to play piano. And then I just got, like, bored of it. I was just like, this is boring, and I'm impatient, and I don't want to learn how to do this. This is stupid, touching keys. I'm not about it. So, but my piano teacher told my mom, she was like, your daughter sucks at piano. She is terrible. She cannot play piano for her life. But her vocal cords are all right. Like, she can sing okay. But piano, no. But I'm not. She literally refused to teach me piano because I suck so bad.
What a great teacher.
Right? See,
do you do that to your kids? They suck at something and you're like, well, I'm not even teaching you.
No, I'm just kidding. I wish, no.
It would be nice to be able to do that.
Imagine if you could.
You'd be like, nah, dude, you're just not going to make it.
No, it's not, like.
Dude, but think about every story
Teacher of the year.
For real, every story of any successful person, somebody in their life told them, either you're gonna make it and you're gonna be a star one day, or you're worthless and you're nothing. Be one of those two people in somebody's life.
I'm not trying to get all corny and stuff, but like having a kid tell you they suck at something, like at least for me as a teacher, that pushes you to want to make them good at the thing. And now you think, at least from my perspective, I'm like, okay, as a teacher, if I can't make them improve, or at least make them think that they're good at whatever it is. Like this one little girl in my class, she was like, I suck at writing, I can't write. And I told her, I said, that's just not true. Like, you can write. And then just like as the year went on, she just got better and better at writing. And like the fulfillment you have as a teacher, like to see that. But she still, even at the end of the year, she was like, I suck at writing. And I'm like, oh, like it's so frustrating because it's like, no, you don't. Like I literally, like I watched you and I saw you progress. But it really is, it's hard to change the mindset of a child because like if they're set in their ways on something, like I suck at writing, it's hard to teach them like, no, you're actually good at writing. Let me show you how you're good at writing. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But
do you think that you have to improve your mindset so you can improve their mindset?
Oh yeah, definitely. Because like for instance, like I suck at math, like fully. I'm terrible at math. I am absolutely like, I don't, it's embarrassing. So
don't say that. It's a poor mindset.
I know, right? And then I'm being like a hypocrite because I'm saying that you did. You could be my teacher, you know.
I am. Whatever.
But yeah, I'll have kids that'll say that, like, oh, I'm bad at math or whatever. And I'm just like, but then I try, and I know this is probably like not the way to do it, but I'm like, you know what? Me too. Like I suck at math. And they look at me like, because they don't expect me to say that. They expect me to say like, oh no, you're great at math. And I'm like, no, I suck at math too. And I'm like, let's try to do this together and let's try to like work it out together. So sometimes if you like try to get on their level, because when they think that you're like, you know, superior to them, like you're the adult and you're like telling them what to do and you're talking down to them, they don't like that. So sometimes like trying to get on their level is the route to go. It's the way to go.
But it's not hard to get on a 5-year-old's level, or it is?
It's not hard for you, shorty.
I set you up. I threw you a freaking ball, and I was hoping you would dunk it.
You flew it in my court, yeah.
Good one, Vic.
Listen, I was thinking more of like the older kids that I've worked with. Because like at 5, they're just like, tie my shoe. Or they'll pee themselves.
You're like, I suck at math too. They're like, ha ha. You fucking suck.
Damn, they can ruin your self-esteem, I swear. Like 5-year-olds can really, believe it or not, they can really like make you feel bad about yourself.
That's kind of why I want to know if, you know, you think about how they think about you, because they are people.
So they are, but like, does this make sense? Like, I don't care as much, like, as an adult. Like,
no,
like
but you couldn't. It wouldn't be beneficial to you.
I know that sounds terrible, but...
Yeah, but it's beneficial to you to care about them, but it's not beneficial to you to care about their opinions of you, because you're, like, the 8th opinion they've had.
Exactly. I'm like, you don't even know the world yet. You can't even...
It's like, this is the 3rd time you've driven a car. It's like... You're just worried about hands on the wheel, you know? Like, you're just make sure you don't hit anything, you know? Like, that's kind of where they're at, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like, you can't, even if they hadn't... Do they even have opinions at 5 years old? Or, like, do they think that they do. Do they think on their own, though? Like, do they have opinions of things that they've never heard? Like, it's just things that they've heard before that they regurgitate, right? For the most part.
Some of them, like, you know what's funny? Like, a lot of times they'll share the opinions of their parents.
Yes.
Like... You know, like a 5-year-old will yell out in class, like, Joe Byron. And we're doing, like, counting.
Well, that's his name. That's not crazy. Okay, continue.
So it's just like, you know, and it's like, how do you even know who Joe Byron is? You know, it's like, so it's either like, you know, at 5, I'm saying. Like, the older you get, like, it would make more sense. But at 5 years old, they must have heard it from their parents or something. Like that stupid, like, Joe Byron, like, meme or whatever. But,
Bing
like...
bong.
Bing bong.
I met that guy. Nice guy.
You met the Bing bong guy?
No, I met the guy who interviews those guys. Like the guy who makes those videos. I didn't even know it was him. Really? I met him completely separate from Bing Bong. I met him at a show. I just shook his hand. I was like, "Hey, what's going on? I'm Sully." He's like, "Yeah, man, it's good to meet you, bro." And that was it.
Hilarious.
And then that was it.
Bing
That's
bong.
how it went down. And then all I see on one day on TikTok is like Bing Bong or Instagram or something like that. I was like, all right. And then I start tracking it back, and I find that he does a lot of those Coney Island videos. Anyway, but yeah, they got it from somewhere though.
Yeah, they always like, or they'll say like,
yeah, because I'm like, they don't have opinions yet. There's no way.
Like, even like a 5-year-old saying like shit, you're like, where did you learn that from? And they say it again. They're like, shit, and you're like, I don't know where you learned that from. And it's either like, you know, it could be a multitude of things. It could be their parents. It could be TV. It could be other people that they've come across, like whatever. But they're like sponges. Like, little kids are sponges. So that's why, like, if you have a parent at home that's saying all of these like negative things, like, that's why, I don't know, I feel strongly about when your child's really young, because I've noticed this as a teacher. Like, if your child's really young and you're telling them negative things, especially about themselves, like, you're stupid, or you can't do this, or whatever, like, even in the heat of the moment when you're upset or you're mad, I feel like it's really important to try to like watch what you say in front of them, because they're like, you know, they're little sponges, and they just kind of like soak up everything that you say, and they believe it.
I was hanging out with my friend's stepbrother. Who's,
these fruit flies.
Yeah, I know. There's a lot of them. It's just we gotta handle it. The studio this is where we are. But I was hanging out with my friend's stepbrother, and he's probably third. No, he's got to be like third, between 13 and 15. Okay. And his whole life is the phone and Snapchat and all that shit. And I'm even thinking, and we're like, me and my friend Jared are in the car with him, and we're like cursing left and right, and we're talking about whatever we want, and like, I'm like, wait, this kid's like getting all this, and he's so annoying, obviously, because that age is just like, I was so annoying, dude. I just remember how annoying I was. That's like the worst age group. But I'm like even at that age, it's bleeding in to what he's gonna think and what he's gonna say and things like that. Yeah, it carries. It does. Speaking of, no, continue. I subbed for like 8th graders, and just they're the worst in my opinion. Like 7th, 8th grade, well 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, they're the absolute worst. And that's because like they just, you know, they're like, if I'm at the board and I'm teaching, they're just like, they'll just randomly get up and start doing like a TikTok dance, and I'm like, you know, you just fuck this generation. Like, you're just like, you know, like, it just sucks. Like, you can't, like, and there's nothing that you could do. Like, you could call the principal in or whatever. You can't even send them down to the principal's office, but like, anymore, at least from my experience. So it's like, it's frustrating, because you're so limited on how you can like control a classroom. So it's funny, because I'll see things like on social media that's like, oh, teachers back in the day could actually control their classroom.
Yeah, hit that bug.
I got one of them out of
you got one?
40.
But teachers, like, back in the day couldn't, like, they would say, oh, they could actually control their classrooms. It's like, well, now, actually, believe it or not, since you're not in a classroom, like, so you actually have no idea what it's like to be a teacher in the classroom, we're so limited on the things that we're actually allowed to do. And people don't think about that. People don't think, like, it's not like I could just send a kid down to the principal's office anymore and they'd be like, oh, I'm going to the principal. Like, kids don't care. They could give two shits if you send them down to the principal's office. And at least the school that I was at previously, you couldn't even do that. Like, I couldn't just send a kid down because it's like, oh, like, the principal might be busy, so you can't just send them down to the principal's office. Like, it's like, you can't take away their recess. These bugs.
They're really coming out of the woodwork now.
They are. You got it,
yeah,
right in your hand. I can't even do that.
Pretty good. For audio listeners, you don't have to worry about this. Just video.
That's funny. But yeah, what was I saying? I don't know. But well,
can't send them down to the principal's office, or they don't care. They don't care. Yeah, I remember my friend stabbed me with a fork. Plastic fork.
Really?
Yep.
A plastic one?
Yep. James stabbed me with a fork.
It must have hurt real bad.
I didn't think anything of it. I didn't think it was bad at all. I was like, it was nothing. It was like, it's fork. And I'm like, oh, shit. Like, I didn't, like, it didn't hurt.
It probably did. Probably hurt you real bad. And you're just trying to play it off.
Story,
you're like, it didn't hurt.
Let me tell the story.
Okay.
Found you chiming in about how I feel. I'll tell you how I felt. I'll tell you.
Okay. So couples therapy. We need the mediator right now.
I'm here. I'm ready to
get out of this. All right. I start yelling and screaming. What are you doing? Bar Rescue, dude. It's my favorite show on earth.
He loves Bar Rescue.
You ruined this business. You're gonna really do that? I just love John Taffer, dude. I try to be John Taffer.
No, he's cool. He's really cool. I like him.
Friend stabbed me with a fork. Somebody saw it. Help, lunchroom person.
Yeah.
And they ratted on him. Not me. They ratted on him and then brought me in and brought him in or whatever. And they called my dad, and my dad's like, who was it? Is one of the three that get in trouble. And I come home, and he asked me about it, and I'm like, I was good. Like, it just was, we were messing around. Like, they ratted on him, like, not me. But even then, it was different. I actually remember my friend getting sent to the principal's office for using his, Kindle or something in class or something like that.
His Kindle.
Yeah, he had like something.
Yeah, remember when we had the Kindles?
Dude, that was like, if they were like, all right, listen, we're going to put paper on a screen. Revolutionary.
Innovative.
Yeah. It wasn't any better than paper.
Yeah.
It was like, just looked like paper on the screen. Yep. Like, it wasn't a screen. You couldn't watch videos on it. It was fucking books only.
Yeah.
But anyway, he went down to the principal's office. The principal's like, oh, what's that? And they were like hitting it off. And
but you know what's crazy? Okay, so a teacher, this is a story from another teacher. She, that wasn't me. She had a kid who was like, he pulled down, like, what, first grade, I think? He pulls down his pants and shows another kid his wee-wee. First grade. And so there was an aide in the room who was like, she barely spoke English. And she was in the room, and she saw this happen. And then the teacher was like doing small group in the corner, whatever, like reading a book to the kids or whatever. And so she goes over, tells the teacher. And throughout the day, I don't know what parents think. Parents must think that we have the ability, like, if you're in a classroom looking after 25 children and your child shows their wee-wee to another kid, I don't know. I don't know, sue me, but I don't think that's the number one priority, only because, like, if it was a safety thing, like, if it had to do with the safety of the child, I feel like that'd be a different story. Yeah. But anyway, so the teacher has to wait, like, a period to call the parent because she was looking after 25 other kids. She's not going to stop the lesson or stop, talking to the kids to take time to talk to this parent to say, like, oh, your child did this, blah, 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 blah. So anyway, so she told the parent. She left a message because the parent didn't answer. Maybe they were at work or whatever. The parent comes in and storms in the principal's office, freaks out, and is like, what? How is this not a bigger deal? Like, I'm a child psychologist and this is, or whatever. She's some sort of like psychologist, this parent. And she's like, oh, this is like such a big deal at like a first grade level, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, and then she comes after the teacher saying like, oh, well, if you were a parent, or you must be a bad parent because she's a mom. She has a daughter. She's like, you don't understand. And it's like, I feel like parents a lot of times, they don't realize like what it's like to be a teacher, because it's like you're looking after 25 other kids. So if you want your child to be obviously every kid's safety is the number one priority, but if you want your kid to be like super zoned in, like everything they do is like they're on watch, you need to homeschool that kid, because it's like you can't like stop a lesson completely or stop taking care of the other kids just to handle this one situation. Like, sure, it's a big deal, you got to handle it, but like you can't stop what you're doing completely to like go out of your way to handle it. Like, you could tell the parent, let them know what's going on, you could tell the principal, but there's only so much you could do in the moment. And I don't know, I guess I just don't really understand what that parent expected her to do. Like, especially if the parent didn't answer the phone at the time. Like, I don't know. It's just...
Well, ultimately, like, that parent is saying, you should have done what I wanted you to do. Mm-hmm. But there would be no way, first of all, for you to know what I wanted you to do. Second of all, you could have never predicted this happening. Mm-hmm. Third, you should... my kid supersedes all of the needs of the other kids.
Yeah, exactly.
Or actually, no. Me being aware of it supersedes all of the needs of all the kids in the class.
What are you supposed to do in that situation? Especially in first grade, you're not even thinking about that. You're not thinking that a kid would pull down his pants. So how about maybe let's examine your child and let's maybe figure out what's wrong with your kid, or what is your kid watching, or what is your, you know what I mean?
Well, the one,
like, how about that?
The valuable thing about when I grew up is that my parents like they would blame me for things that were my fault. Mm-hmm.
Or how about the kid gets disciplined? Hey, maybe you shouldn't pull down your pants.
I don't think it's a bad thing to tell kids when they did something wrong.
Instead of it being, I just thought it was so crazy that so much emphasis was put on the teacher and the way that she handled it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, that part was crazy to me.
This must be some generational thing with these parents, though. What I'm saying, like...
But I feel like in a lot of cases, like even this one, I'm not saying this is definitely the case, but the parent may have gotten defensive. Like, oh, my kid did that. And then it's like, you think that the school's coming after you as a parent. Mm-hmm. Because they're like, you know, now you're the parent whose kid pulled his pants down in class and showed his wee-wee. So that's the rep that you have. So it's like, I feel like parents get so defensive on like the kind of parent that
I would have just fucking high-fived my... It was, son, high five, good shit.
I mean, boys tend to have wee-wees. You know, not you, but most.
Don't assume gender.
Okay.
Good shit, Trett. We need litter in these bathrooms, motherfucker. There better be litter in this bathroom. Litter... I don't have a bathroom, dude.
Yo, the litter box in the
That's what your window's for.
Dude, I got a window and I got a closet, boy.
So we found out that was not real.
It's not.
That was not actually a legitimate thing.
So the deal is, there was a Joe Rogan video of him talking about how somebody that he knew somebody where a kid in this particular school identified as a cat. So they were going to give this child a litter box to do their
business
in. And it turns out that that's not the truth. The truth is, though, there is litter in some schools. Truth. And that is for when a bomb threat happens and they lock everything down so you can go in a litter box. Now, the question is, should we be just using litter boxes instead of bathrooms?
Or how about, like, let's Wow, that's your salute. Like,
I think there's a bigger problem at hand. Yeah. Let's stop listening to Joe Rogan as truth.
Dude, that's wrong.
I heard it from a guy whose parents told a guy.
No, and that was the YouTube guy's video who I watched. That was his point too, of like Joe is always saying a story from a story and never backs it up. Yeah, like don't fucking take your advice from Joe Rogan.
No, you shouldn't listen to anything he says outside of entertainment value.
He's
a comedian. He's not a fucking scientist.
Saying listen to him about shit that he knows about, and then you can go fact check. I just treat all these people as another person. Like, my friend would tell me something, and I would go, he wouldn't bullshit me unless he doesn't know. Mm-hmm. It's the same thing for Joe and anybody else. He's not bullshitting people. Didn't know.
That's having a specific expectation of what you see on the media in general. It doesn't matter if you watch CNN or Fox News or whatever you're watching. Like, it doesn't mean that everything is legitimate. And we as a society, I feel like, in general, are just so, like, we're like, oh, that's not true. How about we use our adult brain and decide what's, or figure out what's true or not if we actually wanted to figure out if it was true or not.
Well, yeah, all you have to do is, like, Google it.
Yeah.
And then, like, look at 3 things
or research
to know if it's actually true or not. I mean, it was way more fun to me for me to believe that there's a real litter box and they actually did that for a kid. So I wanted to believe it because I thought it was fun to make fun of it. You know?
Yeah.
But
I know, I kind of wanted, But
kind of wanted that to be real.
It worried me as a teacher because I'm like, am I going to have a kid that's going to identify as a cat? And then, I mean, to each their own.
That you might have, but in terms of
litter box you do you, but like if it comes to me and I have to change a child's litter box, I think that's where I draw the line. I don't think I get paid enough for that. I don't think I'm going to be changing.
Yeah, but that's a janitorial item.
Oh no!
Toss it to the janitor. Here's your litter box.
No, literally, like kids will throw up in my classroom, and like the janitor will not clean it up. Guess who has to clean it up? Me. Yeah, so I have to stop teaching to clean up a kid's throw up.
Make janitors great again.
Yeah, right. Thank you. That's a good one. Make janitors great again.
Let's fucking go, dude. Clean up those motherfucking spills.
Maybe in other schools. I'm just saying from my experience.
I had my guy Harold. He was dope. Always talked to him. Harold. He was the man.
Who's Harold?
He was the janitor. One of them. There's an old guy who didn't talk, and then there was Harold, and Harold was the one who talked to us. He was cool as hell. He would clean shit up. He would fucking mop. I mean, the guy was doing it all.
He would mop. All the things that you don't do. All the things that you don't do. Clean up, mop.
What do you think I'm doing? I'm not doing shit. Oof.
We need some couples therapy.
I'm not here to front. I'm not doing shit.
Okay, at least you're...
That's your job.
Ooh, Trett. I might need to step in. I might throw this microphone at his face.
Who cooks?
Barely.
Alright, I'll never cook for you again. Fuck you.
I don't cook, I don't clean.
I'm good then.
You're good then. No, I do have to say he's a pretty decent. He can make food. You know what?
Yeah. Just.
Yeah.
What were you saying?
Can't talk, but.
Fucking know who does the podcast, man. Speaking of nothing that we just talked about. So, well, speaking of parents.
Mm-hmm. Parents, yeah.
Your parents.
My parents, yeah.
Your OGs.
Yeah, my parents, yeah.
You were born in Russia.
Yeah.
Do you remember?
Samara, Russia. Well, being that I was 6 months old when I was adopted, no. Nothing?
Not really. Not a flashback?
No. Let me try to, like...
Channel it.
No, nothing. All right. Sorry.
It was worth a try.
It was. I'd like to visit one day, but I guess my family's too afraid of Putin. They're like, nope, don't send her back. They're gonna keep her. So I'm just not.
One of my friends has a producer in Russia, and he was telling me that, you know, he's like, it's possible to get out, and, you know, we want to get out.
I had dual citizenship actually until I was 18.
Then what happened?
And then I had to decide, am I going to be an American citizen or a Russian citizen?
Wait, Russia makes you decide?
I don't know.
Or that's just what I was told. I'm saying that's you can like know. You could have went there and
I think the U.S. made me decide. I think I'm not positive.
Because I think you could go there and I think you could still get a Russian citizenship probably if you wanted to.
I don't wanna. Like, I don't know. It's just, this is what I'm used to. This is what I've never been to Russia. I was 6 months old when I was adopted, so I have no idea about, I can't speak Russian. I know like a few words, but.
Would you mind like talking about the other kids who were adopted at the same time that you are? Do you not want to go into that?
No, that's fine. Yeah. So there were a few kids who were adopted at the same time as me. And unfortunately, a few of them, it was maybe like 5 other kids that were adopted the same time as me, and they unfortunately got into like drugs, or they had some like mental issues or things like that. And not all of them, but there was one girl that was adopted at the same time as me, and she unfortunately was stuck in a bad romantic situation where she ended up dead in a marina in Florida, and they found her just floating. So she got into drugs and whatnot. And it's kind of sad. But anyway, unfortunately, like from what I've heard, a lot of their situations did not end up that great. And mine was, I don't know. I feel very fortunate and very lucky for the way that my situation played out. I was very lucky. But.
Do you think about what your life in the Russian mafia would have been like?
I would love to think that I was a Russian mafia baby. That's like my dream. I would love to think that. Like, I was expensive. I was almost like $50,000. So, when
You're saying your parents, that's what they...
Yeah.
That was your price tag.
That was my price tag.
That's what the Russians sold you for.
I would love to think that I was a Russian mafia baby, honestly. That'd be really cool.
She has good eyes. Make it 50.
But I don't know. My parents bought me online like a puppy. They had like dial-up internet, and they were scrolling through, and they were like, that one. And I asked them, and the only thing that they said, I was like, why did you pick me? They were like, we wanted one that looked like us. And I was like, what? I was like, all right, that's not weird or whatever.
Might have been better off if you're Russian.
Right? I don't know. No. Like, I don't know. I was kind of picked like a dog. But it's funny because people...
Well, it wasn't... it was better than a catalog.
Right? People expect you to be offended, like, for being adopted. Like, I don't know why there's this, like, expectation. And it's crazy because I'm not, like, I have no, like, I don't know.
What
like,
about other adopted kids? Are they offended?
Maybe if I was adopted at a later age, I might feel that way. But I don't know. I just don't, like, because at 6 months old, how can I be offended for a person deciding, like, even if my mom was like, fuck this baby, I don't want it. Like, like, even if that was the case.
You still got a little something in there.
You gotta channel the accent. Even if she was like, I don't give a fuck about this baby, that doesn't bother me because somebody else did. So it's like, I don't know, it just like, it really genuinely does not bother me. But I do feel bad for kids that are older, that are in the system for a long time. Like, it's really sad.
And you like your life, you enjoy it.
I do. I mean, except for you, but like...
Well, you picked me. Jesus Christ.
I know, and that's the hard part, because it's like, I was given this life...
You picked me, then you picked me again.
I make bad choices sometimes.
I make bad choices.
I make bad choices.
My Russian upbringing. My mom make bad choices. I make bad choices.
You have a better Russian accent than I do, I think. We should go, though. We should take a little mini vacay to Russia. Maybe if I go with you, they won't...
Is that a vacay or is that a death sentence?
Well, maybe if I go with you, they won't keep me. Maybe they'll be like, They're
going to take you immediately. They're going to use you and make as much money off you as they made off probably the other people around this time. Well,
like, they always told me, like... Apparently, like, the specific orphanage that I was at. So I was adopted from Samara, Russia. I don't know the name of the orphanage that I was at, but sorry. A lot, like, after 15, like, they kick you out. Yeah, these flies are like running like crazy. They're all over the place. You got to get a fly swatter.
I
like
gotta
one
get
of those,
a salt
like
gun. Trett, order us.
I'm on it.
No, I've said this like so many times, but my Amazon's outside now. It's okay. We'll order it after.
But like at 15, they kick you out of the orphanage. So
if you make it to 15, you're saying.
I mean, usually the kids don't die, but yeah, if you make No, I'm just joking. But
good.
But
no, I'm
if
saying
you're not
if you
adopted by 15, yes,
that's what I was saying.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
I gotta fuck with you a little bit. Okay, but if kids are not adopted by 15, which unfortunately a decent amount are not adopted by 15.
The ugliest ones, yeah.
Damn. But
It's okay.
They end up on the streets and they have no, they don't really have much. They didn't get a very detailed education, so they're just kind of on the streets, and the majority of them become like prostitutes. So my nickname in my family has become prostitute, because they're like, if you weren't adopted, you'd be a prostitute. So it's just like, haha, funny joke. So yeah,
super supportive family,
right? I love my family; they're great.
We bought you. You would have been a prostitute.
Well, you were
really expensive.
You work for my brother, so that.
Yeah, but he's his own animal.
Mm-hmm.
I should have him on the podcast.
Oh,
make him pop an Adderall before.
Pop an Addy. Yeah.
Off the rails, baby.
He would be.
Talk about who knows, man. He's a little too. He's got to get his shit together a little bit before I have him on.
No, I think he'd be interesting to talk about.
The thing about your brother is that he's a unique individual. Like, there's nobody that's exactly like he's not generic, really. Like,
I feel like you're the same way, though. I feel like you're a very unique individual.
Hey, you said it, not me. I mean, I don't know. I can't call myself unique. That's fucking weird. You know?
Could, but
I'm unique.
The first step is acceptance. So.
Oh, this is AA?
This is AA. You gotta accept that you're unique.
That's why we have to take a shot before the podcast.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. He's calling me an alcoholic.
Compared to me, you are.
Well,
it just depends on your perspective.
Listen,
comparisons.
Yeah, it does. So it's a dependency thing, It depends if you. So I don't depend on.
You got to tell the people how's it been being with me? How is it? What is it like? Good, bad, middle of the road. Satisfied? What's going on?
Like, in what way are we talking about?
I don't know.
Like, I'm just bullshit. Okay. Like, all together, what's it like being with you?
I guess.
Well, you talk about
we could skip this one.
You talk about podcasts a lot.
Like, too much? Arguably. You talk about teaching a lot.
Okay. Well, that makes sense.
Does make sense. That's what we do a lot.
Yeah. Well, you do. Podcast is your life. I need to get you a shirt that says that. Like, podcasting is my life.
Yeah. What's the shirt that you got me? It's ask me about my podcast. Oh,
yeah.
That's terrible. Why'd you get that?
I know. I shouldn't have gotten. Yeah, I don't know.
Somebody did. Did I tell you? I had the shirt on, and somebody asked me. And dude, this guy didn't care at all. I don't know why he asked. He was like just nodding his head like, okay, I shouldn't have asked.
If you had an like quote unquote normal job where you were working like 9 to 5, what job would that be?
Yeah, I mean, it'd probably be what I'm doing now. Like, it'd probably be a podcast producer or something like that. I would have worked a job, and then I would have taken either music or this podcast full time. That's what I probably would have done. Like, I still would have ended up not working for myself, or working for myself most likely in some capacity, I think.
So you wouldn't work for somebody else, is what you're saying?
Either I would have worked for somebody else, and it was so good that I couldn't not do it. Like, it was so beneficial to me, and I was making so much money, or I wasn't making as much money, but I was working for the perfect person at the right time. Or I would have found one of my other things to do full time. I just don't. I was thinking about this the other day. I'm like, I could never go back to a job, I don't think. Mm-hmm. And I've only been doing this for a little while, and I'm only 24, so it's probably naive, but I just don't know if I could, No,
I don't blame you. I can't picture myself not being a teacher, so I see what you mean. Like, I couldn't do something else that was not that. Like, I couldn't see myself doing something that wasn't that. Is that
what made you change from hospitality, or was it aspects of hospitality that you didn't realize until you got into it?
That, yeah. Because, like I worked at a country club for a short period of time, and I just realized, I was like, people are so fake. Like, it's just people are so fake and just not genuine. Like, it's just so, I don't know, it's just I don't know, I didn't like that. That's why I like working with kids so much, because they tell you what they think, and they're so real and so truthful. And that's why I feel like I really like and gravitate towards people that are like that. Like, I try to choose friends and people in my life that are just genuine and truthful, like, instead of people that are just kind of like, you know, not that way.
You'd rather have a friend that fucks some shit up, but they'll always be honest with you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yep. I've noticed that about you. I also think that you're a very kind of, not that you would ever let somebody like walk all over you or anything, but like I do think that you are more accepting of people maybe, or more empathetic than me.
Yeah,
you
probably.
Think so, right?
Yeah, no, yeah, I'd agree. To a fault, like, I think, for me.
Do you think
like,
I'm not that to a fault? Because you've mentioned that about me before, so.
Oh, Trett. Couples
I'm ready. I'm ready.
Couples therapy.
I haven't gone anywhere. I'm here.
She made all this shit up, dude. This is not.
Yeah.
Do I wish you were more empathetic at times? Yeah. But I think that overall, I value that the way that you are, because I'm not like that. Like, I think I'm more of a people pleaser, I would say, than you are. So I value that, because you stick up for yourself. So I'd like to be more like you in that way.
Yeah, I think that's important. I just remember my sister asked me one time, she was like, why don't you care about what people think about you? It was like for some school thing or something, I think. But I don't know if it was like... So
why don't you? Because I definitely do. So why do you not? Or how do you keep yourself from...
It would limit what I do if I cared. So I wouldn't be able to do the things that I do if I did care. That's really it. Because like I can't care about what people's perception is of me, because overall it's a perception, it's not the real me. So they don't know, like if say somebody had an opinion on me that wasn't favorable, if I talked to them and sat down with them face to face like this, they probably wouldn't have that opinion anymore, right? Like, or at least we would talk through it and they would understand why I am like I am, right? So it's like ultimately the perception of me isn't me. So they're judging something that isn't even me. So how could I take that seriously? If somebody that knows me really well then has an opinion of me, then I could say they probably know, right? Then I could take that seriously because they know me. And I could say, well, they've spent X amount of time with me and they know me really well.
That's a good point. Yeah.
And especially if you do something like this, or it's like music or business or whatever, I have to face like rejection all the time, you know? And if I care about what people think, then I'll get caught up in the emotions behind it. And with a lot of what I do, I can't be emotional. I have to just be logical and be like, you have to make this right now. You have to do this right now because you said you were going to do it. You can't not feel like doing it and then not do it, right? So like it's counterintuitive then for me to take other people's feelings of me into account when it's like I can't even take my own feeling. Like I have my own feelings about me, but I'm not going to let that stop me. Like if I was like, well, I feel like I'm not good at this, I'm not going to let it stop me from doing it if it's something I have to do. Yeah. You know? So I can't let me stop me. I can't let them stop me from doing what I have to do.
Ain't nobody going to stop you.
I'm strong, independent.
How do you think that like affects our relationship by me being a teacher and me having like a normal, well, quote unquote, I'm saying like normal whatever job where I work, you know, like 8 to 4 every day, and you work Monday through Friday, and your schedule is more like sporadic.
Are you saying does schedule? You're asking about the schedule?
Sure, like schedule or, you know, what we do in general. Well, like you definitely talk to people more. Like I talk to kids all day and you talk to adults.
The way I kind of look at it is that you're in a system that has been around for a long time and was designed a certain way. So there's obvious parameters as to when you come in, when you leave, who does what. With me, I'm building the system that you're in. Like I'm building a system, like the system you're in, I'm doing the same thing that you participate in every day. I'm building that from scratch. So that's why my shit's all over the place, because maybe 150 years from now, somebody's going to be in my system that I made, even after I'm dead, because you're in somebody's system after they've died, and they put together this school system that now lives as it lives. Like, I'm 3 years in, and you're 180 years in to a system, right? So it's like, that's why I think it's different. I kind of just look at it like it's just a difference. I don't think it's better or worse. I like the I like that it's different. Like, I like that you're not doing a thing where it's like you have to go out on your own and everything's on you and you're responsible for people's paychecks. Like, I like that you're not in that, because it gives me a good perspective on also not the other side of it, but like another side of living life, you know? Whereas like if you get, I don't want double of me around me. I need a balance. Like, I need somebody to balance me out. I don't need somebody to be just like me to tell me I'm great. Like, I want the balance part for you to go like, well, you're not really that empathetic. Like, that's kind of crazy that you really think that about that person. And I'm like, why is that crazy? And you're like, well, they went through this or whatever. You should take these things in consideration. And maybe I wouldn't naturally. So I think that it's important that there's a balance. As much as maybe in my ideal life, I would think like if I were to paint a picture of a world that's, you know, not real, you would think that, oh, okay, I would be with somebody who's like such a crazy go-getter, like in terms of building their own life and doing their own business too, and like working on their own passions as well, and like just like me, man, just like me. And I know couples who are like that. But I don't, I've been with somebody similar to that, and I just, I didn't like it, you know? So I think that ultimately it's good. Like, I think ultimately, like, yes, we're not going to do the same things. We're not going to look at things the same way. We might not even have completely identical values, but I think the balance, it's good for you to see what I'm doing and think, okay, like, that's completely opposite of what I would ever do, but maybe that I could do that, or maybe I could do something like that. It's good for me to see what you're doing and going, maybe I can sometimes just stop at 5 o'clock, you know? So like, I really do think that that's beneficial for us, and it's beneficial for you to be with somebody who's not a teacher, you know? Because I just think that this is, you know, assuming, but I think that you don't need somebody that just reinforces what you already believe. Like, you want a different perspective.
Well, yeah, I mean, there are, like, even teachers that I'm friends with, I don't, like, necessarily agree with all the time. Like, even you know, like, my really good friend, like, Ian, like, we don't always necessarily, like, we're both teachers. We both taught kindergarten for the same amount of time. We still don't agree, like, on everything, you know, like, so even that, but yeah, no, I see what you're saying. Like, as far as, like, kind of it balances each other out, because it's like, you know, the old saying, like, opposites attract. So just like, you know, I don't know, I just feel like if you were too much like me in general, like, not even just solely based on my career, because, like, you know, we're more than just what we do every day. Aspect. Like, it's one aspect of our lives, right? Like, I'm not just a teacher, like, I'm more than that. I do different things, and I am more than just a teacher. And you're more than just, you know, a podcaster. Like, you're so much more than that. And I think even more so, that's who I'm drawn to. Like, that's why I was so drawn to you, not just because you do this. Like, it's great that you do this. I'm not saying it's not, but I'm drawn to other aspects of you than just what you do. Like, I don't think that, like, just because two people do the same career, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But people are more than just what they do every day. So I think that that's a big role in why we may, you know, like, work out, because it's not necessarily, you know, us being the same work-wise, but we can be the same in other ways.
Yeah, we met before either of us had any career, so.
Yeah.
I had this podcast.
We were working on it, but yeah.
Yeah, but I didn't have a business at all. Which is crazy to think.
Yeah.
But yeah, we met just doing this, just talking in the car.
Yeah.
We were put in a position,
both working for my brother.
Well, yeah, we were both put in a position where we had to spend more time together than anywhere.
We were like forced. We were like almost forced to spend time together. Yeah.
Like it would have been weird if we didn't at least become friends. But yeah, that's interesting to think about. But then all I would do is just start talking to you about what I do, and then you just sat there. I'm like, listened.
Shut up.
And you're like, this is like kind of boring, dude. Like, what are you doing, dog?
No. Well, sometimes I may not 100% understand what you're saying or like even agree with what you're saying, but ditto. Like we're not,
The convo doesn't get stale. That's what I like. I feel like we just always find something. Like we could find a new kitty litter bathrooms, like, and we could just riff on that. Like it's just kind of whatever. What do you think about this? Well, this is what I think. Yeah, and I think I have recently really valued, as much as how people opinions are like assholes. Everybody has one. I really value opinions. I didn't realize, but I think they're super important, like way more important than people think.
Like people's opinions? Like individual opinions?
You will listen to an episode of this podcast or any podcast, and you'll notice an episode where maybe the guest or the host or whatever, they're covering ground that's already been covered. When you cover ground that has not been covered, it's mostly because of an opinion that hasn't been said yet. And I just think that is so valuable, is like differing opinions. Yeah. So I think that you being a teacher, not like it doesn't make sense to me, but like you're not like expressing any of your opinions, and you kind of like, you're pretty good at navigating conversation, and you have a skill that you don't really use that much.
I feel like I'm not that good at that, but I appreciate it.
Yeah, I think you are, but you're doing what you love to do, right? Like it's the thing of,
I know, I feel like from what I've said, like from what we've talked about, I sound so like critical of what I'm doing, and like it sounds like I genuinely do enjoy teaching, and I genuinely do enjoy what I do. I wish that parents and administration and just like the whole school system in general was more on the side of the teacher. Like I wish there was more compassion on the the teacher side of everything, but overall I enjoy what I do. And it's crazy to say, like, I know this sounds corny, but I genuinely do love every kid that walks in my classroom, even the annoying kid that you're like, oh, I can't wait to go home, they're driving me crazy today. But at the end of the day, you still care about them, and you still love them and value them. So yeah, I really do love what I do.
Your profession has changed a lot, and people's opinions of it have changed a lot. And your profession, people in your profession, and what people have done to people in your profession, and lives have been lost, and there's seriousness going on, and the world is changing, education is changing, in every state it's changing differently. So you're kind of caught up in the middle of a shitstorm, and you're like the person who has to do the job.
But at the end of the day, like a big part of it, to be honest, is like you go home and you have to realize, like it's hard to detach yourself, but I have to realize, like, I'm more than a teacher. Like, I'm not going to go home and think about this one kid, who drove me crazy all day. Or I'm not going to think about the fact that I wish that I could bring this kid home, because I know what this kid is going to go home to. There needs to be a certain point where I have to detach myself, because otherwise I would just drive myself crazy. So even with you, I think that, and for a lot of people, like, it's important, like, for us to detach ourselves from what we do day to day, because it can get so mundane and so regular, to even if, regardless of if you're doing a 9 to 5 Monday through Friday or not, it can get so regular and so just consume so much of our mind that, like, we really need to detach ourselves and really appreciate who we are as individuals, and really get into, like, what we're doing, and what we enjoy to do, like just ourselves, that has nothing to do with our career.
Yeah, because you are not the career.
But it's hard to think that, because especially, like, even if, regardless of if you take pride in what you do, it's hard not to let that, like, linger, like what happened, today at work, like, or stick with you, or coming off with a certain time, or coming up with a certain time that, like, okay, I'm going to stop working at this time. Like, it can be hard. Like, I know for you it can be very difficult to say, like, okay, I'm going to stop working at this time. you know.
It seems for me, it's either I can't stop working or I know I should be working when I'm not. It's either way.
Well,
it's like either way I'm like kind of
a lot of
beating
people feel
up.
that way, yeah.
Is there anything that you do to like cut to stop the, do you just stop? Like, do you just not?
See, for me, I feel like it's a lot easier because I know, like, sure, I have to write lesson plans and there's certain things, like I have to catch up on emails after work or whatever, or catch up on work training. So there's certain things or whatever, contacting parents even after work. But I need to have a cutoff time, and a lot of, like, other teachers that I've talked to, they have a cutoff time. They're like, after 5 o'clock or whatever, like, I'm not working. I'm going home, I'm spending time with my family, whatever the case may be. Like, they have a cutoff time.
When you look at your career as a teacher, do you think you're very early in your career? Do you see yourself being a teacher, or is there an inkling of potentially looking at different professions?
See, I always thought it would be, like, easier, like, because, well, one thing I've always been sure of, I was always thinking of so I've always based my career, like, this sounds like you're gonna be like, oh boy, but I've always based my career on the fact, like, I wanted to be a mom. So I just knew, even from a young age, I was like, I want to have kids, I want to be a mom.
Oh, we're done. It's over.
I did, like, that was a big part in the career that I chose, because I was thinking about being a flight attendant, and I was like, that's not, that wouldn't be easy to be a mom flight attendant. I'd be away a lot of the time, and who knows, holidays or whatnot. But, like, as a teacher, I have summers off. I have, and all these things. Oh, it's so easy to be a teacher because you have summers off. No, because a lot of times teachers are even working during the summer. Well, you have to, in this economy. But
true. Very true.
But it was really not solely based, but my decision to become a teacher really had to do with the fact that I wanted to be a parent one day. So I was like, let me pick a career that, is going to make it easy. And then, my kids could go to the school that I work at. So I'd be able to be around them, even if, they're not in my room or whatever. But yeah. I forget what question you asked me, and I don't even know if I answered the question that you asked me, so I apologize. What did you ask me?
It's a podcast. Yeah, could you envision yourself? No, you answered why you wanted to be a teacher, but could you envision yourself not being a teacher now, since now that you've been one? Doing something else other than teaching?
So with that factor in mind, I think it'd be difficult for me to. I don't know, to be honest with you. Like, the answer, I don't know, but I would probably still want to be a teacher, just based on, like, just the convenience of it, I guess you could say. Mm-hmm. Just, like, it's, yeah. So.
Was it very different, you actually being one versus you thinking about what it would be like to be one?
Oh, yeah, totally. Yeah.
But you still
there's definitely, from my experience, so it's hard to say because I've only worked at one specific school. So my experience is just set on this one school. So there was a lot more, I felt like I spent the majority of my time managing behavior than actually teaching. Like, I feel like I didn't get a lot of time to do what I actually wanted to do, which is teach. I spent the majority of my time just making sure that a kid didn't throw a chair across the room or throw their pencil at another kid or hit another kid or scream the whole time I was trying to teach. Like, it was a lot of managing behavior, or it was a lot of mostly that. And just it just wasn't like, there's a lot of micromanagement, and I thought, oh, when I'm a teacher I'm going to have my own classroom. No. Administration comes in your room constantly. You get observed multiple times, like, throughout the year, or even you get what they call walkthroughs. Like, administration comes in and basically they critique or judge your teaching, or what they like to say, oh, they're giving you advice so you can be a better teacher. It's constant. it's just you're constantly being watched or judged or whatever you want to call it, and it's just like it's frustrating because it's like, just let me teach. Because if you walk in my room, you're not only like disrupting like kind of like the groove I'm in, like if I'm trying to teach, but you're disrupting the kids because they're looking at you and they're like, who's walking in right now? It's just like, it's very frustrating.
Was working with the kids though, there's nothing like you can't teach what it's like, the experience of working with these kids every day, like the fulfillment that you have.
I didn't think that I would get so attached. I guess like I thought like I'd have a classroom and I'd meet these kids and that would be the end of it. No, but I like even the end of like last year, I was crying. The kids weren't crying, I was like, I don't want to leave these kids. Like I love them, I care about them, and I like, you know, it's it sounds so stupid, but it's like I don't want them to move on. Like I want to teach them next year. I want to teach them the year after that. Like I want to see where they go. I want to continue with them and stay with them. And so I didn't realize that it was going to be that hard. So, yeah, that's something.
How was your first podcast?
Oh, it was good. It was good.
Would you like to do it again sometime?
Yeah, we could do it again.
I'd love to do it again sometime.
Yeah, no, that'd be nice. Yeah, thank you for having me.
Anytime. Trett, anything before we wrap up?
No, I'm good.
Give Sully one like insult like before we go. It's like a wrap up.
One insult? Maybe it's time to shave.
Oh, yes, I love that.
Dude, so funny. Bar rescue today. The guy had a big beard and he was like, before you wake up and don't shave. Fucking He was insulting the fucking guy.
This just in, the curtains do not match the drapes, just so everybody knows.
That is how you end a podcast with your ex-girlfriend. All right,
thanks for having me.
Vikki, thanks for doing this.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Thank you, Trett.
You're welcome.
For dealing with us.
Of course. Yeah, no problem.
Trett, thank you, buddy. Appreciate it. Vikki, anything you want to plug before we wrap it up?
No.
Do you want them to follow you on social media or anything? Or
no, I'm good. Okay. Thank you, guys.
Okay, nothing is in the show notes or description. Don't find her or follow her. It's an alias. We're using a different name anyway.
Oh, you're gonna give me a different name?
Yeah, I'm gonna give you some. So what's like a female Russian name? We gotta find something.
I don't know. Maybe we'll have some fun with it. We'll like Google some shit.
Yeah, we'll have to give it a goog.
A goog.
Thank you so much for tuning in today. Really appreciate everybody listening on the audio platforms and watching on YouTube as well. If you are listening, you can catch the YouTube version of this podcast in the show notes or description. I say it every single time, and I'll say it again. We are on all platforms, even the ones nobody uses. All right, we'll catch you guys on the next one.
Thank you, guys.